It's the first video of a new year. Welcome back to Somm Saturdays with Treveri Cellars. Today we're going to be talking about our Gewurztraminer. Now, Gewurztraminer in general is probably best known for coming from Germany and Alsace, France, not unlike Riesling that we talked about last time. Now, many years ago, it's thought that Gewurztraminer originated in the north of Italy, and the grapevine kind of procreated across Europe and found itself to its what we think of as its current homelands. The grape that we think it started out as is Traminer. It's also sometimes known as White Sauvignon, and Gewürz means spiced. So over kind of the centuries, as the grape probably crossed and mutated and changed, it became a much more aromatic, perfumed version of Traminer. So Gewürz, in fact, means spiced, and Traminer just harkens back to that old grape variety. Thus, Gewurztraminer. Our Gewurztraminer, not unlike many others, is off-dry. Like the Riesling that we talked about last time, it's demi-sec, and like all of our wines, it is coming from Washington State. The grapes are coming primarily from the Yakima Valley. Typically speaking, you're going to pair Gewurztraminers with dessert. You can find bone-dry versions of it. Just like Riesling, we talked about this last time. You can make dry wines out of just about any grape. But by and large, you're going to find Gewurztraminers are made off dry, and they're incredibly perfumed. And that perfume usually lends itself better to kind of creamy, sweeter tastes that we might associate with dessert. But because I'm obstinate and I really want to try and give you guys an option to pair our wines with something a little bit different, we're going to go the savory route. We're going to do a little bit of Middle Eastern eggplant. The recipe that I want to use today is coming out of a cookbook that I've had for a few years. It was really the new hotness a few years ago, called Jerusalem. So we're going to crack this open, and we're going to make a little eggplant as well as maybe a little cucumber salad. I'm going to cut away real quick and just say the first effort last night when I cooked this dish just really didn't turn out. The flavors worked, but I think that the flavors will be slightly different and more successful as a pairing if I take another stab at it and I do a better job cooking this recipe. So I'm going to cut away. I'm going to talk while I knock out take 2 at the recipe. And hope that you guys will bear with me. I hate to say that I actually made 4 primary mistakes the first go around with this recipe for this video. And here's the first one: using eggplant that is subpar. I actually bought these a few days before I got to film this, and in that time, they got brown in the middle. This is what the eggplant should really look like. So the second go around, I'm making a half recipe, and you can see that the eggplant here is bright white, a little bit of green to it actually, and doesn't have any squishiness, it's very firm. This is actually a better shot at the disappointing quality of the eggplant the first go around. The second mistake that I made was not getting the olive oil applied edge to edge on each half of the eggplant. Anyone who has cooked eggplant before knows that it will just soak up oil.
I have applied maybe enough olive oil for this recipe, but let's take a look at what I really should have done. I've got the olive oil and what is actually a silicone brush. Doesn't matter what kind of brush you use, but you got to use enough olive oil and brush it edge to edge. This is what you want the eggplant to look like when you're done applying the olive oil.
Somehow I forgot to hit record, but the next step is to mix together the other half of that spice mixture we made earlier, along with a little bit of sugar, lemon, and water. Salt, as well as what's supposed to be tamarind paste, but I don't have any tamarind paste. But I do have another totally obscure ingredient, which is pomegranate molasses. So I threw a little bit of that in here instead. I'll add a note here and hopefully clarify this point. Sorry about that.
Here's a little side-by-side illustrating the third mistake I made the first night. I simply didn't cover the roasting dish with the eggplant in it tightly enough with the foil. I should have folded together these two pieces of foil to make one big piece and then gotten a really good seal. The second night, I had a dish with a cover on it, so I used foil and the lid, which made for a really tight seal. My fourth, perhaps most embarrassing mistake the first night was that I completely neglected this step, basting the eggplant. Just like you would baste a turkey or a chicken you were roasting in the oven, you want to take this out and apply moisture from the base of the pan onto the top of the eggplant. And by the time this comes out of the oven, you want it to be super soft and supple.
So that was certainly a successful revision, and this is much more in line with what I had hoped we would get last night. So here we are, stuffed eggplant 2.0. Long story short, this is a really stellar pairing. The cinnamon kind of is evocative of similar spiced aromas in the Gewurztraminer. We said at the beginning of the video, Gewurztraminer, spiced Traminer, or Traminer. The fattiness of the lamb with the sweetness and the acidity in the Gewurztraminer, the aromatics of the Gewurztraminer along with the aromatics of the lamb mixture accompanying the eggplant all works so much better together. I will put a version of this recipe in the box down below. I don't know how kosher it is to list out somebody else's recipe completely, but if you don't have it or you're interested in getting it, the Jerusalem cookbook is outstanding. I cook out of it, I'd say maybe a couple times a month, so it's worth checking out. Other things worth checking out are all of our wines. Hop on TreveriCellars.com, shop our wines, order 6 bottles or more, and you're going to get penny shipping throughout the United States. I really do recommend that you get some Gewurztraminer, the Riesling that we talked about last time, if you're into off-dry wines at all. Regardless, I hope that you are well. I hope that you stay healthy and safe. Until next time, I'm Wilson Cecil. Cheers.